A massive evening in Minneapolis as free Chick-fil-A was earned for Target Center with 2 missed free throws by the Knicks in garbage time. Happy to be leading this game off with garbage time talk as the Timberwolves win by 17 against the New York Knicks at home, now undefeated at home, 6-0, 10-3 overall. We get that win against the 8-6 Knicks now, who had won 6 of their last 7 games coming into this one, although basically all those wins being against inferior opponents. I also think they had taken our spot as the top-ranked defense in the NBA, all those are probably getting flip-flopped after this one and our showing in this game. And they really outplayed the Knicks pretty thoroughly through the entire game, although it was close through the first half. The Wolves would only have a 2-point lead at halftime. This was due to the Knicks having 5 fewer turnovers and 7 more offensive rebounds. They would out-rebound the Wolves by 6 for the game with 10 more offensive rebounds for the game. And that was kind of expected as Mitchell Robinson averages 6 boards by himself. The Timberwolves averaged less than 10 as a team. I think it's like 9.8 going into this one. And Mitchell Robinson would still do his thing, 7 offensive rebounds in this game, but that did not mean that Rudy Gobert was not dominant in this game, because he absolutely was. He was dunking everything, 7 of 7 from the floor, which is great. Struggled from the free throw line again. That's like maybe the 4th time I think this season where he looks just about hopeless at the free throw line, and it didn't end up biting us too much in this one, but we would pull him in the 4th quarter and sub in Kyle Anderson instead, who had a really good game in this one as well. A lot of good offense to defense, or defense to offense plays where he'd make a big impact steal or block. He'd have 3 stocks and make a smart play in transition, one of them being for a Rudy Gobert touch pass dunk that Rudy would hold onto the rim for 2 seconds and get a kilty, because the NBA has to have the worst rule enforcement possible and just try to tarnish the product that is so lovely-ful. But anyway, an important thing to note for this game is that Jaden McDaniels left after 5 minutes, turning his ankle, and did not return to the game. And so that's something that could have some long-term impacts. The people that stepped up in his absence did pretty well. I mentioned Kyle Anderson. Nickeil Alexander-Walker actually had a huge role in this game, 33 minutes. Luckily, he's been on the upswing lately. We know he's a very streaky player, and he's had a stretch of probably 7 or 8 games where he's looked great after a poor start to the season. The other element really holding back the Wolves in the first half was 3-point shooting. They were just 4 of 12 in that first half. They would have 7 more makes in the second half and stabilized a little bit, still shooting well from 2 throughout the entirety of the game. Also, Anthony Edwards came out of the second half with a big offensive punch, had 11 points in that quarter, and really set the tone to let this team kind of elevate, reach a lead as high as 22, and kind of have that the rest of the game. We had interesting performances out of the other bigs in this one, meaning Naz Reid and Karl Anthony Towns. They would both foul out in this one. I thought they got really emotional in the second half, kind of from different things. Naz has been struggling with his 3-point shot lately and less consistent offensively. 1 of 6 on threes tonight, and that one make being kind of when the game was already decided. Really, Guy-Red note about Naz Reid quick. He's 2nd in the NBA in free throw percentage. Only 24 of 25, so few attempts, but who would have guessed? And then Cat got really emotional at the start of the 4th quarter and was kind of throwing his arms around, really flailing, hooking, doing those typical annoying movements. Although a couple of his fouls I thought were bogus, like getting called for an offensive foul on a pass. I thought there was a charge that was called a block. And there were some things that I get his gripes, but that's usually the thing with Cat. It's that he goes farther in his frustration of what's really garnered, and sometimes you just got to suck things up and deal with the bad calls. Cat was still good on offense. He gave us some production. He was just volatile as well and kind of made things really uneasy in that 4th too, especially because I know the capacity of this Knicks team to keep grinding and keep hustling and make things close. But thankfully, that didn't happen. The defense stayed solid, and the only people on New York that could really shoot were Jalen Brunson and RJ Barrett, who has kind of revived himself from 3 this year, shooting almost 50% on the year, 3 of 4 tonight as well. So he might become a little bit more of a different player if that becomes a bit more consistent, but his overall output not very big in this one. Jalen Brunson, also still just so good. I was actually talking about him in a pickup game that I was playing this weekend, and I was trying to teach the youngins how wide you got to shoot your layups if you want to go to higher levels of basketball. And so I'm like, don't shoot like this. You got to get all the way out there, almost like a hook shot. And so I mentioned Jalen Brunson earlier, just this week. So good to see him balling. He's a stud. This Knicks team, just their ceiling's not that high. High floor, low ceiling. I don't know. They'll beat the bad teams, not really the good ones. Timberwolves are looking like a good team. Nice to see that. 6-0 at home, 10-3. 1 seed. Who would have thunked it? I'm happy about it.